Today we read from the book of Daniel, chapter 3, verses 14 to 20, 24 to 25 and 28. This is a terrific story. If you have time, do read the whole thing. Our lectionary reading is a précis. Hebrew storytelling was an oral art form, and it included a lot of repetition as a memory aid. So some of the phrases are repeated many times over, such as the sequence of musical instruments involved. When you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, drum, and entire musical ensemble, and of course those three wonderful names keep coming up: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Wouldn't those make perfect names for three mischievous kittens, I always think. But those three weren't kittens. They were tough, brave, firm in their faith, committed to their God, unafraid in the face of power and brutality, sure of their ground as they stood up for the God they knew to be real and true, not illusory as the pagan gods were, the idols made by human hands. I love the bit where they say, if our God will save us from the fiery furnace, well and good. But if not, we still refuse to worship your so-called gods. It reminds me of an episode in one of the Narnia stories, The Silver Chair, where the witch, the queen of the underworld, is trying to convince the children that Narnia and Aslan and the sun and the overworld are dreams and fantasies, and the only reality is the grey, gloomy underworld. In the end, the children say, whatever, even if you're right and it's imaginary, our world is tons better than your one, so we're going to go on believing in Aslan anyway. And that breaks the spell. Her power over them dies. Nebuchadnezzar has no power over Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That drove him mad, of course, so the story ramps up with a hotter than ever fire and tighter than ever bonds. But whatever. In the furnace he sees a fourth figure, an angel, and all four walking free. Nebuchadnezzar, the great king, is powerless. He can do nothing. The book of Daniel is a collection of stories and visions, stories of deliverance and of skillful interpretation of messages from God. All the stories show the superior understanding of God's people compared to the foreign rulers to whom they were subject. Yahweh, the true God, has no rivals and makes mincemeat, as it were, of any other god or any human power. The stories were very likely used to encourage the Jewish people in times of persecution by foreign oppressors. A reminder that despite appearances, God is still in control. God's power is unassailable, and faithfulness to God will be rewarded. It's a timely message, still today. How often do we look at the world news and think to ourselves, where is God in all this? What's happened to the power of God? Perhaps in Ukraine or perhaps in other places of war and conflict. Their enemies seem very powerful. It must seem impossible to hold out against them. Or everyone seems to have sold out to corruption and evil. There seems no one left with integrity or sincerity. Daniel gives us another perspective, a heavenly one. Ultimately, these powers will crumble. Only God lasts. Only God can be relied upon. Only God is the great I am that I am. The one who simply turns up, quietly walking beside us through the fiery furnace, or along the road to Emmaus and makes our hearts burn within us, or cooking our breakfast on the beach. Come and eat, go and tell. Let's pray for eyes open enough to see that presence, hearts soft enough to sense that love. Let's pray for all who go through a fiery furnace today, that they will receive courage and strength by the power of that presence.